Welcome back and thank you for staying with us on eNCA. We're now focusing on housejacking syndicates. Many affluent suburbs are being targeted by criminal gangs. They're even using lawyers and loopholes to retain hijacked properties for as long as possible. Let's get more insight into this now with a crime expert, Condon. Kyle, good morning and thank you very much for your time. In my first attempt, what I was saying was that are these, in fact, can we say, in fact, these are organized syndicates, or it's what we sometimes see where it's just maybe a group of homeless individuals who observe movements or lack thereof in a particular property and then invade it?
Good morning and good morning to your viewers. Look, there's two types of scenarios here. One is properties that are being taken over by individuals, homeless people, vagrants, etc. And then you get the organized cartels, I like to call them, which are syndicated based, which will take over a property, encourage people to go in and then start charging them rent. So basically removing the income revenue from the original owner and putting it in their own pockets. The bad news for property owners in South Africa is that the law doesn't seem to be on their side at this stage.
Talk to us about those legal loopholes, so the lacuna that allows for perhaps those that are now considered tenants to continue to reside in your premises, even though you, as the owner of the property, don't get the remuneration or you don't get the amount that should be due to you.
Well, this is what's happened over the past 15 to 20 years, this hasn't been a new thing. This has been creeping in over the years. But what we've seen is that individuals or groups are targeting a particular building mostly in low-income areas, people of downtown Johannesburg, cities like Germiston itself, where it's a bit downtrodden. And they're moving in. The owners very often are overseas or are out of touch with their property or their building. These guys move in. They kidnap the building, in other words, or hijack the building, I suppose is a better word. And then these tenants are brought in. These tenants are often jobless, or maybe have one person working in the family of 10 or 15. They're shoved into little rooms, and they're expected to pay the new owner. And when I say the new owner, I'm talking about the owner that's hijacked the building. And these are the guys that then make the money. They're armed, they're dangerous, and they do not allow for police or anyone to interfere because the law protects them. We've got the squatting rights law, which I understand where it originated from, but it's been completely become a grey area and been abused and manipulated.
We've been all too familiar with this happening, like you say, downtown in dilapidated areas, and also often we hear that the owners would be abroad or out of touch, as you put it, in some way or another where they're hardly there. But this one of hijacking buildings in the suburbs is completely new to some of us. We're unfamiliar with that, but of late, I must say, even driving to Hyde Park to the office, I've seen a few houses here that seem to have now been invaded by homeless people. So what drove them up north, if we would, to the suburbs?
I think quite simply the lack of consequence from when they were doing it in low-income areas. I mean, if you can't police, there's an old saying that if you're going to police correctly, you police with zero tolerance. The fact that we've created this problem in Hillbrow, we've created this problem in Germiston, we've created this problem in low-income areas where people loathe to get involved or are scared to get involved. It was only a matter of time before it escalated to the next suburb, the next category. And I mean, I've been aware of cases where houses are put up for sale with a for sale board outside. And when the estate agent gets to this particular house, and I'm talking about in affluent suburbs, to show the house to a potential buyer, there's a group of 15 or 20 who've established themselves in this house and refuse to move. They turn to the courts. The courts drag their feet. These things can take 8 months, 10 months, sometimes up to a year to get this resolved. And in the interim, these people are able to get away with it. And as I said, the problem is that there seems to be the last resort is calling the people like the Red Ants, but then there's a big uproar about displacing the homeless, etc. But forget the fact that they're committing a crime.
No, it's a very difficult situation that land or homeowners can find themselves in, because here you then lose out on potential revenue from the sale of the house, because now you're going to court for a good 2 years. You've got to pay legal fees. So how does one guard against this? What can you do to ensure you don't find yourself in this situation? Must you be somebody that constantly comes and sees what's happening at your property, or you hire security? What do you do in an instance such as the one you're describing, where you're wanting to sell your property, you're not there anymore? What do you do?
It's the reality of owning property in South Africa. I think it goes down to just the same as a couple of months ago we were speaking about kidnapping. The responsibility sits with the owner. You know, it's the owner that's got to make sure that they protect their property and look after it if they themselves are not living on the establishment. Which means, yes, hiring security. You know, it's even difficult with security, because a lot of these guys come and they're armed, and they're coming in a group. I had a case, in fact, Thursday last week, of a small block of flats that were up for sale, going on auction. And with security there, and between the auction date and about a week before that, a group of 20, 30 had arrived at midnight and just barged their way in, kicked down a door, and made themselves effectively residents. And the security were petrified and ran away. So you've got to look at it and say, well, okay, if I own a business, how am I going to protect it? And putting one poor security guard at the door or the gate is not going to be your answer. It's not going to work. You've got to really look at how you're going to spend your money in terms of security, but the onus is upon you, because you can't rely on the police. That's the reality.
No, but this definitely needs a broader conversation, particularly with a legal expert there. You've really tackled and unpacked the criminal aspect of it for us, but I think it does deserve a broader conversation to look at those legal loopholes and what or how one can protect themselves legally as well. Kyle, thank you very much for your insights. That was crime expert Kyle Condon.